Hi, this is D13 and welcome to Thundertown. Here is the basic map of the valley that I'm using to construct my city in. Over here you'll see that this is about how much I've actually constructed to this point. The map is very much inspired by MadMax, and I wanted a real centerpiece for the town, something that was very ominous. And I decided I would try this big skull waterfall. I was just going to have one big skull and have water coming out of the eyes or out of the mouth. So I started looking on the workshop to see if I could find something that might fit this location. Well, I found this spooky, scary crematorium. So I took the asset and I turned it into a procedural object, which left only the skull. And then I fiddled around a little bit trying to get the color to match the rocks and stuff, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get it to be the right color, so I decided I would just use this, gray color as it were. So then I got a hold of these gray flame rocks, and I started manipulating the size of them to try to get them to fit really well along this cliff wall. And here I'm trying to figure out where the waterfall should be. So I got this this waterfall asset. What is it called? 𝗪𝗦𝗢𝗣𝗦𝗢𝗣 waterfall, something like that. And I put it in here because I wanted to see where the water would fall, below the skull. And now I started working on sort of this plateau. I was thinking eventually this plateau would be part of a complex where the evil bad guy, like in every Mad Max film, there's like Anti, and there's Toe Cutter, and whoever it is in the most recent Fury Road movie. You've also got Master Blaster, when Max fights in the Thunderdome. And I thought, well, I'm going to make this area around the skull, and that's going to be the complex where the bad guy is going to sort of like the leader, the authoritarian figure, for everybody to rebel against, that kind of thing. Oh. So here you can see I'm actually trying to put in this water area because water, would be very important in sort of a post-apocalyptic world. And I was trying to figure out, can I run a little river through here? Can I, make a canal? Eventually, I just settled on I'm gonna, I'll look into that later. And I'm just going to keep working on this little sunken area. And so now I started working again on the cliffs. And I really wanted to expand this whole cliff face area here. And get it so that it looked kind of cool before I moved on to the next steps. So this is a prop from the workshop, which is like a water, like just a piece of water, like almost like a pane of glass. And I put it inside this hole where the water is, sort of just below the surface of the water, so you really can't see deeper into the water. It sort of creates a reflective surface just below the water surface. And this is why I just really spent a lot of time messing around with this water area here, trying to get it just right. I revisit this again many times in the future before I finally settle on what it becomes. So here I'm using a small, asset, the steam asset from the workshop. It might actually be built into the game. It might be one of the base assets. And I was trying to put it at the bottom of the water, so the water hitting the other water, is causing some, steam or water to kick up. So here we go again with the gray flame rocks. I'm trying to build a little plateau up here I figure, yeah, this is going to look pretty cool. I'll do this with all the gray flame rocks around it, and then I can put some buildings in here, and I can see how this would look. And when I finally finished with this, I took it and I posted a picture of it on a Discord server, and asked what people thought about it. And it was actually suggested to me that maybe I could take the skull and sculpt the gray flame rocks around it to have a skull, a rock shape skull, or a skull shaped rock, something like that. Let's just say that. So here you can see me. I'm just still working on these gray flame rocks, trying to get a cliff area that's you know, going to be the centerpiece of the town, going to be the bad guy's place, you know. All right, so now I've moved on to starting to work on this stone, you know, the skull wrapped in the stones or in the rocks. I missed a little bit of the beginning of this, but I actually had thought I lost the entire video, so I finished this episode all the way through without having this footage. And as I was making the thumbnail for YouTube, I found all of this footage, went back, re-edited my video, and re-recorded, recorded all of this audio. Here you can see me just taking these gray flame rocks, and as procedural objects, you have all these little points you can grab a hold of and move around, and it allows you really to sculpt them into the shapes you really want. So I spent quite a long time. This was probably a couple of hours just working on this skull. Wow, there's quite a bit of effort here went into trying to sculpt it to look like a skull. I also want this skull eventually to be somewhat functional. It's massive. I mean, the one eye socket is just huge. A whole building can fit in there, and I'd like there to be some sort of functionality to it, like a ritual location, maybe the facility that like I said, the evil bad guy lives in, possibly. You know, that's a little bit cliche, but, you know, would stand to reason that, you know, this place wouldn't have been naturally formed from the rock, so somebody had to carve it, or had to have it constructed in some way, so... Here I'm trying to build what I think the top area of the skull should be like. I didn't want the skull to be completely rounded off on top. I sort of wanted it to be flat-ish so that it could fit in with the cliffs, and there'd be a flat area on top where I could maybe construct some buildings. You can see me making what almost looks like a hat. My wife saw the video and was joking that she thought it would look like a hat. So here I'm trying to figure out about what to do with the teeth. And I thought, oh, I'll get this rusty steel beam, and I'll put this in here and it'll look like teeth. And I spent a lot of time fiddling, making it bigger. I spent a lot of time saying the word fiddling. I spent a lot of time working with these steel beams until I finally got them the way I wanted them, and to have them in here sort of as a structural element as well as being, you know, big teeth. Now here I am putting some flat areas inside the mouth and in the eye areas so that there could be an area like a platform back in there that I could put things in. And so the skull is actually on a layer, procedural object layer, where you can turn it on and off, and I could turn on and off the white skull so I could get in here and work, and I could turn it back on and make sure that everything was conforming to that shape. Yeah, I realize this isn't really building a city much at this point, but you know, in the next episode, I'm gonna build quite a bit of, or make quite a bit of effort towards building parts of the city and making things functional. So here I'm making a copy of it, so I had the skull way off to the side of the map as a copy, and then I pasted it into the hill here, or into the cliffside. And here I am continuing to work on these cliff areas around the skull. There's more work on the waterfall, trying to get it centered underneath here, but I'm not sure why I shoved it off to the side there. I guess I really wanted to get this cliff carved out just right. Here I go again, redoing the water. which I have probably redone 4 or 5 times, even beyond this. Can't remember what I was doing over on the right there. I think I placed some, like a pickup truck or something over on the right there as for scale. So here I'm taking a tiny little person, one of these little Linda props, and I'm trying to get her up onto the eye socket of, here we are, get her on the ledge, come on. Sometimes it's kind of hard working with props. So there she is right there on the eye sockets. You can tell a little bit of the scale of this build. I think I left her there. She might still be there. So here I am working on the water, trying to get the water back up, the waterfall coming all the way back up into the mouth. So I've got a couple of copies of this waterfall that I turned into procedural objects. And here I am redoing the steam that I seem to have lost. So it was right about this point I was looking at some shots of MadMax Fury Road, and there's this sort of skull-shaped thing with 3 holes in the mouth area where the water comes out when the bad guy wants to be able to turn on and off water. So, oh, here's a Eiffel Tower prop, and then the Arc de Triomphe, I think that is, and the St. Louis Arch from the game. So you can see that I was doing this actually to take a screenshot to show someone the scale at which I had constructed this. So here I am putting more of the rocks in here to try to, you know, really sort of finish off this area. So right here I found these gray flame rocks that have these big grooves in them. I'm not sure, you know, why they were built that way, but I love the groove shape. And I thought, yeah, maybe that triple waterfall idea that I saw in the MadMax mock-ups and in the movie would be really cool to have like 3 waterfalls here, but I didn't want them all just coming out of the skull's eyes or the mouth, which I originally thought might be kind of cool. So I got those grooves in place, and I'm working on trying to get these side rocks evened out, and some of that area where I might be constructing in the future laid out. I think I was pretty happy with it here. I'm surveying it, and I'm now starting to work on the areas where these waterfalls are going to go. At least I hope I am. Eventually, I'm not sure if I'm going to shoot video for it or show the video for it, or even if I shot video for it. Eventually, I put some. Oh, here I'm making these. I'm taking these giant train doors with the black doors, and I'm working on the edges here. And making them smaller so I can fit them into the eye sockets and the mouth area to make it dark back inside there, so it looks like it goes really deep in. So what I said is I was eventually going to work on some, in the cliff sides here, I'm going to have some tunnels where the roads actually go inside the cliffs and run behind this area. So it's almost like there'll be a complex inside the cliffs behind this. I'm not sure if that's going to be, I'm going to be able to show that, but I will be able to take these are all procedural objects, and I can turn them off, and I could build behind this and put a functional city behind here. So here I am working again on the waterfall. I placed 2 of these wider waterfalls up at the top, and I've done some coloration to it to make them a little more blue, to go with the more blue water. And as they're procedural objects, I'm going right down the waterfall and sort of making each one sort of conform to the rock better. Now this bottom rock, I'm sort of making a little trough in it, so that where the water hits. And then I'm putting a little edge on here that's lowered, where I can have the water run off and down into the pool below. So yeah, in the future episodes, I am trying to make a functional city, although I'm using mostly the block assets, the Rico blocks and other blocks, so that I can hide them inside procedural object buildings. But I do already have a population of around 500 people. So what you see here on the screen is I have a population close to 400, and that I've actually built some of the city on a plateau nearby this waterfall that will also be in a future episode. So here we go, to getting all of these waterfalls all lined up and all the rocks all lined up to try to get this to look right, and finally coming in here with the steam to try to make it look like the water's coming down. And I think I throw some steam up on these upper rock areas where the larger waterfalls are hitting the rocks. In a future episode, there's going to be some work done towards there's a large body of water that you can't see off the top of this area, much farther behind this area, that's like a large lake, that the water for this waterfall actually comes from. And maybe I'll have some sort of aqueducts or something up above, and some farmlands up above, but I'm not 100% certain I'm going to get that far. And so far, I mean, there's a lot of procedural objects, and the part that I've built of the city so far is maybe 1/10 of the city, and I've used quite a few props and other assets. So I spent quite a bit of time sort of slowly admiring my waterfalls here. Next up are the city walls. So I wanted to have some really cool walls bordering the city. So I started out with these Ronix 69 blocks and train entrance tunnel pieces, and used some of them as they are, as the standard, as the props, and some of them I turned into procedural objects. And you can see me here fiddling around quite a bit trying to get this all lined up. So initially I wanted to build some really tall walls, and I wanted them covered in garbage. So I ended up putting some fences along these and stacking up a bunch of junk car props, and eventually, you can see them here, eventually I got rid of them. So let's talk now about the Thundertown sign. So I wanted to have a cool sort of Vegas-like feel to the sign on the entrance, and I wanted it to feel friendly yet ominous. I don't know, this sounds kind of weird, right? So I didn't really have a name for the map at this point, and I was kind of trying to come up with something, and I was thinking of Bartertown and Gastown, which are MadMax lore cities. And I was thinking also of Thunderdome, and you'll see later why I was thinking of Thunderdome. But anyway, so I thought, why not just call this one Thundertown? That sounds evocative of the MadMax franchise, and even though I wouldn't necessarily say this map or this town is set in that particular world, it could be. It is. So here I am trying to figure out where the word Thundertown should go on the entrance, and eventually I settled on placing it right here above the arch. And of course, it was overlapping these little angled pieces on the arch, so I decided to go in there, and because this is a procedural object, I was able to move the entire edge at the top there over and make it square it off. So then I tweaked and finally got it where I wanted it. And again, you can see those cars that I ended up removing, but they may make a return at some point. Next up I decided I wanted to say, welcome to Thundertown. You know, again, sort of that almost like a sarcastic welcome sign, right? So I found these letters that I turned into POs, and I colored them all the same color and spent Lord knows how long tweaking the size of every letter until they all, you know, made a sign that I liked. Eventually you'll see here I find a bracket that I can put all these on, so I can set it above Thundertown on the trestle. And I turned it into a procedural object and tweaked it a bunch and shrunk it down, and there we go. So I copied it and made two of them side by side. Now we got the word to in here, so welcome to. Quite obvious. I don't really need to be narrating that for you. And let me know if the speed here is a little too fast at times. I know I'm jerking the camera around all over the place. I haven't really learned to leave the camera in one position and do all the work from that position so that I get good video yet. Here I am copying it to a bunch of entrances that I had created. Eventually I pare that down to only a few entrances. So here's part 2, where I started remaking some city walls as a much simpler version. I have sort of marked the boundaries I wanted for the city. You sort of see some fencing off to the side there, and so I'm actually just taking pieces out of the big wall that I had created in the middle. That big wall did not survive. It was removed in favor of there being just plateaus and a more open feel in the center of the town. So I've got these wonderful Ronix 69 roads that are like mud or dirt or something. They're just gorgeous. They kick up dust as the cars drive over them, so you really get a desert feel. So there's the two entrances, one on each end of town, and then the other access will be eventually via boat. This was just a tiny little gas station that I did. You'll see it in the opening sequence. That was just a proof of concept for the map. Now I'm building this internal wall along the energy plant here. This is the electricity plant, and it's the garbage recycling and other things here. This will be explained much more in the next episode. So I'm building this little wall, a little security wall here to keep people out of there, or at least keep the riffraff away from this location. And I'll go on in a future episode and really detail this wall with graffiti and some walkways and some military personnel. So here is some of these rail edgings that you'll see used by a lot of creators that can be raised up. And I was thinking maybe I'll use this asset. I found this thing and I don't even know what it's from, but it's just fantastic looking. But I couldn't make it fit. So I placed this rail edge in here because it's raisable and it's a network. I placed it along the top of the wall, and then I found that there's a fence that's raisable. I think it's just a standard generic, base fence, vanilla fence you can see here on the screen. And I raised that up and placed that on top of that wall. So, and I've got a couple of the prison guard towers in here, just to sort of finish it off a little bit. I'm getting everything all lined up here and evened out and level, and then I'm copying it over to the other side. And then, trying to make it so that it goes all the way to the edges, and I was fiddling with this and fiddling with it, and I finally got it stretched out across here, and there we go. So then I made these big blocks that I put on either end, so there's sort of a terminus at each end of the wall going into the cliff sides. Here's some stills I took of the main gates as they look right now. There will be a video in the future showing how I got to this. This is a second gate that's going to be used for large trucks to enter the compound. And this is one of those internal checkpoints that you see going into the energy location. And here it is at night. I've done some work towards lighting at night. And finally, let's talk a little bit about how big the city's going to be. Here you see the Mars Dome. The Mars Dome is from City Walk, City Walls' wonderful, absolutely amazing Mars project. Find it on YouTube and watch it. You can stop right now and go watch it, or, right after this video. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to put the Mars Dome in here for people who have seen the Mars thing. And I'm going to be using this Mars Dome shrunk way down to sort of recreate Thunderdome from the MadMax series. So next episode, here we are. We're just going to show off here. This is Pig Star Energy. As it is in the MadMax films, pigs and energy go together, let's just say. Thank you for coming, and like and subscribe if you will, because I'd love to have some followers. That would really inspire me to continue the series. Thanks. Have a great day.